Chapter 11, Lesson 1. Main Ideas. Geography. Mesoamerica has a variety of landforms. Geography. Climates in Mesoamerica vary from tropical to dry. Geography. Geographic diversity caused Mesoamerica to have a variety of natural resources and crops. Geography and agriculture in Mesoamerica. Build on what you know. What is the landscape like in the area where you live? Are there high mountains, or do you live in a lowland area? Are there any volcanoes nearby? As you'll read in this lesson, Mesoamerica had all of these different landforms. Landforms in Mesoamerica. Essential question. What landforms are found in Mesoamerica? Rugged highlands, coastal lowlands, and smoking volcanoes are just some of the physical features that have shaped life in Mesoamerica. Location and landforms. Mesoamerica, or Middle America, lies between the present-day United States and South America. It includes the southern part of Mexico and much of Central America. Mesoamerica is a land of varying elevations. A central spine of mountains run through much of the region. In the north, the mountain range divides into two. A section called the Mexican Plateau separates these two highland areas. On each side of the mountains, narrow coastal plains run along the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico. In some places, the plains widen into broad lowlands such as the Yucatan Peninsula. The Yucatan stretches into and divides the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. Volcanoes. Volcanoes have had a huge effect on the landscape of Mesoamerica. When a volcano erupts, it spits out streams of lava or melted rock and clouds of ash. In time, the lava and ash build up to form huge cone-like mountains. In Mesoamerica, some of these volcanic mountains are well over 10,000 feet high. More than a dozen of them are still active. That means they can erupt at any time. But most have been dormant or inactive for hundreds of years. The craters of a few of these dormant volcanoes have filled with water, forming vast highland lakes. Climate and vegetation. Essential question. How do climates vary in Mesoamerica? The climate of Mesoamerica ranges from hot and humid in much of the south to desert-like conditions in the far north. Such a difference means diverse growing conditions for plants. Wet and dry climates. Much of Mesoamerica lies in the tropics. This area stretches from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. Generally, the climates here are hot and wet. Daytime temperatures stay above 80 degrees Fahrenheit for most of the year. A little over 80 inches of rain falls every year. The heat and moisture of this tropical climate give rise to rainforests where various trees and plants flourish. In the lowland areas, where less rain falls, the rainforest gives way to rich grasslands with a few trees and bushes. In the northern section of Mesoamerica, the climate is still very hot. However, very little rain falls there. Much of this area is covered with grasses with an occasional bush or shrub. Some parts of the north get very little rain, so that they are considered to be deserts. Elevation and climate. One of the greatest influences on climate in Mesoamerica is elevation, or the height of the land above sea level. The higher land is, the cooler the climate becomes. Under normal conditions, the temperature drops to about 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet you rise, and growing conditions change as climate changes. The geography feature on the next page shows the main elevation and climate zones in Central America and the different plants that grow in each zone. Geography shapes Mesoamerican life. Essential question. How has geographic diversity affected the natural resources and crops found in Mesoamerica? The landforms and climate of Mesoamerica provide the region with a variety of natural resources. These natural resources helped to shape the way that early peoples of the region lived. Natural resources. The highlands of what is now Guatemala supplied Mesoamericans with jade and obsidian, a black volcanic glass. People carved small figures from jade and made razor-sharp weapons from obsidian. They also found seashells and shark's teeth in the coastal regions. Mesoamericans used these for jewelry. Mesoamericans also made use of the animals found in the region. They especially prized the colorful feathers of a bird called the quetzal. The quetzal was sacred to many Mesoamericans. They often used the feathers from these birds to decorate their clothing and headdresses. Agriculture in cities. The development of agriculture made the production of surpluses possible and led to the development of urban societies. Step 1. Agriculture leads to settled villages. Step 2. As agriculture improves, surpluses of food, crops, such as corn, are produced. This encourages population growth and larger villages. Step 3. Surpluses also mean that not everyone has to raise food. Some people begin specializing in other kinds of work, such as weaving. Step 4. Food surpluses and specialized skills lead to the growth of cities. Agriculture. Mesoamericans farmed all kinds of land. Some of it was good for farming, such as the floodplains of rivers or the slopes of volcanic mountains. In both places, the soil was fertile, favorable for growing crops. Other areas, such as the rainforests, were not so good for farming. To work these lands, Mesoamericans used a method called slash-and-burn agriculture. Farmers cleared the land by cutting down trees. Then they burned the fallen trees and used the ashes to fertilize the soil. Finally, they planted crops on the cleared land. After a few years, they abandoned this land and moved on to another part of the rainforest. Mesoamericans grew a variety of crops, including maize, a type of corn, beans, peppers, and squash. They used maize to make many types of food such as tortilla, a kind of flat bread. In addition, Mesoamericans grew cacao. Cacao is a type of tree that grows well in moist, hot tropical climates. Mesoamericans used the beans from this tree to make a chocolate drink. The beans were also a prized trading item. Geography and trade. Mesoamericans looked outside of their local areas for many luxury goods. Jade and obsidian were mostly found only in the mountain areas. Seashells came from the coastal areas. Trade developed as Mesoamericans began to exchange their local goods for goods found in other regions. Mesoamericans traded goods over great distances by water. Using dugout canoes, they traveled the few navigable rivers in the region. They also ventured into open waters, traveling along the Pacific, Caribbean, and Gulf coasts. The Mesoamericans also carried on an overland trade, lugging the goods on their backs. Such heavy human labor was necessary because they had not developed the wheel and no horses or oxen were available to use as pack animals. Trade goods were not the only items that moved along these routes. Knowledge also spread, carried by traders all over the region. This sharing and blending of ideas helped to create a common culture throughout Mesoamerica. Lesson summary. Mesoamerica has a variety of landforms. Mesoamerica has a variety of climates. Geographic diversity caused Mesoamerica to have a variety of natural resources and crops. Why it matters now. Chocolate made from the cacao bean has become one of the world's most popular foods.